Hey, everybody, welcome on back to Twisted History Podcast with myself, Large, with the Saint right here, Saint Anne, with my good friend Jeff Vibert. You can know him as Vibs right there. Johnny is going to be working from a remote location that no one's allowed to know about today. He'll be back next time, and he'll be editing this thing all up so we look and smell fantastic. This is the Twisted History of Losers. Twisted History of Losers, and this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes it can feel like everyone else has it all together in their love lives. Whether married, dating, or single, the truth is most of us are still figuring out and finding our way. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way, help you determine what you want, what feels heavy, and how you can take some pressure off yourself. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and our 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means we typically get it right the first time. If you aren't happy with your match, switch to a different therapist at any time from our tailored recs. That was a little bit deceptive. I'm going to do the call to action right now, but they're talking about matching you up with the correct person to talk to, and I think it's important that you're able to like cut bait if one doesn't work, because you know what I mean. If you don't have that connection, sometimes even right away, it just won't work.
And it's not personal.
Yeah, absolutely. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/twisted. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/twisted. Thank you very much, BetterHelp, for your continued support. And let's get to the podcast. Twisted History of Losers. Very difficult to go out onto the content floor and ask people who the biggest loser in history is. I don't think it's one of those ones where
it's a broad question. It's tough.
Yeah, I don't think it's right at the tip of your tongue either.
No, especially because there's so many different areas that have winners and losers. There's the life, there's the sports, there's the different types of competitions all around. Right?
Yeah, no, I think the word loser itself has got different definitions to your point, so it's difficult to really nail it down to just one person, and we're certainly not going to do that today. And even sometimes who you might think is the biggest loser in history, because when I was talking to you about it, he was like, I think it's Napoleon. Mm-hmm. Jetski had said that too, like just randomly. He was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I see Napoleon died in exile. I'm like, Jetski, go on with your bad self.
Yeah.
But he listens to the program.
Yeah.
And we just did Fall from Graces. We tried to talk about people who were way up, and then and that was Napoleon was the biggest example.
Right.
I was going to ask, if to be the biggest loser, can you have been a winner for a while? Like, what if you were the biggest winner for a little bit?
I didn't know how to quantify it when I was going through. So I think when we start with some sports teams, it's a little bit more definitive.
Right. I was going to say, Indiana football, biggest loser in the history of football up until the last 2 seasons, and now we're on top. We're the national champions.
So that gets
wiped
I said
out.
We're. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was if you had the
Hold
most
on a sec.
to lose.
That's a very important thing. Jeff, you were expressing your fandom saying that we are on top of the college football.
I suffered long enough, so I get to say we.
Mike Kadick and Jeff Vibert get to both say that they suffered with it. Speaking of which, before I even get going, they won't be the Indiana Bears, right?
No,
I
think it's going to be like the Jets and the Giants are to
That's
New
what
Jersey.
I thought. I thought the same thing when you asked that question.
I wouldn't mind if it was the Indiana Bears.
Of course not.
Switch it up.
I would tell you what, you're talking about losers. How bad would Chicago feel about themselves if they lost the Bears?
They're
to
not
Indiana?
changing the name. I thought they
can't.
put it out already.
The third biggest market losing their team, huge.
That's
to small market Indiana.
And what is it? Hammond,
the
Indiana.
region, baby. I've sunk my teeth into some region rats.
I think though that'll be good for Gary, right? Because
look how excited he is.
Gary's not far from Hammond, right?
He's so excited
they're very
about
close.
this.
Yeah. And so Gary, Indiana, I used to drive through on my way to, and Gary, Indiana, it's like the industry ran out and the place just got bleak. You see it all over the United States. I'm just talking just Gary. So Gary had turned into a place that used to be a booming place to live and whatnot, and then the creek run dry, and maybe this brings back some stuff because people will travel to see the Indiana Bears.
Do you know any Garys? Do you know any Garys?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Sure.
Yeah, Gary Thornton, my old baseball coach. He's the man. He does jiu-jitsu.
I know.
Not anymore. His knee's hurt.
Gary McCarthy.
Yeah, Scotty.
Scotty's brother.
I think it was his dad's name too, Scotty. Scotty's dad's name.
I don't
Rest in
know
peace.
any other Garys.
His dad was great, man.
Like, do you say, "Hey, Gar"?
Yeah. What's up, Gar?
Gare
like
Bear.
Gare.
How you doing, Gar?
Gar Bear.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
If you watch
How cute.
the new Michael Jackson trailer that shows a good scene of Gary, Indiana, like the steel mills and the
Right.
smoke billowing out of them, and
Might as well when we start, and we'll get to losers in a sec, but we might as well start. On Sunday, we just got in a big snowstorm here in the East Coast. People who are listening on the West Coast, you probably know already about it. But on Sunday, Annie and I and two of our kids and two dogs went into Brooklyn to see my parents.
That was a
and
catastrophe.
we took them to the movies to see. They found like lost footage of Elvis.
Oh, that
yeah,
part was
how
good.
did that?
yeah.
How was that?
Boz Lerman had, I guess, Boz Lerman.
Epic is what it was called.
Yeah, he was just given like all this footage of Elvis. We did the Twisted History of Elvis, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But he put this thing into as little of a biography as he could. Like, he didn't try to run over the Elvis Presley movie that he did with Austin Butler. So he didn't really villainize the Colonel, right? Colonel Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't villainize. It's just a little bit of dribs and drabs. It was almost exclusively live footage of Elvis performing in Vegas. It was pretty fantastic.
It was fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I was born in 1971. Elvis did his residency in Vegas, I think, from like 69, to 77. I think he did like 1,100 shows in Vegas. So when I was born, as when my mom was such a big fan, like I can kind of remember that Elvis when I was like 5 or 6. You know, that would have been right in the middle of that residency.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to see it on like that big IMAX screen, we took my Aunt Bernie, who's 80. We took my mom, who's an undisclosed age, and my dad, who's 85. And those three absolutely loved it.
Yes,
My
they
daughter, the 15-year-old singer, she was like, wow, he's very handsome, very talented. Finn, who's an old school rock and roll guy, very enjoyed it.
Yep.
And then me and Annie sat behind him. And, we had like all the seats, recliners, which I'm not necessarily a fan of.
Not either.
Yeah, they don't like
not
the recliner
comfortable.
goes right to mid calf for me.
Yeah,
Like,
it's,
you know what I mean?
yeah, we had different problems there, but it's just not comfortable. You can't get a full recline. I don't know.
Oh, see, I love them.
No.
I fit.
Give me
They're
the
made
old
for my
school.
size, I guess.
Give me those old school chairs where you just sit
Yeah.
rigid and straight up.
But I will tell you that I thought it was worth going. You can't do much as far as digitally remastering the music from that old footage, but they didn't just crank it up to 11. It was still smooth, and I don't know. It really put him in like a cool light.
Right.
So if your parents are still around and they loved Elvis or anything like that, this is a perfect afternoon.
You very rarely got to hear Elvis speak from all throughout history. Like me growing up,
Yeah.
if they have like news articles about him or interviews with him, they're always like short clips.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, they show Elvis actually having full-blown conversations. You don't really see those.
Right.
Like you don't see him. You see him acting. You see him singing. You see him dancing. You see him. Well, thank you very much. Like he gives like quips. But this one, he's actually having interaction and dialogue, which is kind of cool to see him in a different light.
Doesn't he do a ton of crowd work while he's like singing?
Vibs, I will tell you one thing that stood out to me, which I was not ready for: full kisses on the mouth.
Yeah,
I mean,
total
Yeah.
Richard Dawson.
I'm not
from
talking
old
like
Dawson,
film.
yeah.
Yeah.
just like Priscilla-ish. By the way, Priscilla was a vision. Questionable age when they first met, but once she was of age, she was a beautiful woman.
Maybe 15 seconds throughout the whole movie of her.
Yeah, there was no real talk, but I'm just saying, like, those types would come up stage, but also types that looked a lot more like me, and he was still kissing them on the mouth. Elvis was an equal opportunity
He did not
smoocher.
discriminate,
He did
yeah.
not give a fuck. This must have been pre-COVID.
He addressed little kids. Like he went
Yes.
over to them and he was like pinching cheeks. Like he was very personable.
Love that.
Yeah, I love it, too.
You know where Elvis's last show ever was, right?
I don't.
Market Square Arena, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Get out of here,
Yeah,
really?
brother.
Dibsy.
Yeah.
I did not know
1977, I think. I don't have it.
Never, 1977 he died, I believe. Never performed outside of the United States.
Always
Never
wanted to.
performed
A
outside
true,
of the
a
United
true
States.
patriot.
A true
Right?
patriot. One more thing I'm going to mention before we get going on losers. Elvis, I guess, ultimately was a loser, right? Died on the toilet. And he died very young. He's in his 40s.
Yeah.
But this person is 100% not a loser, but I didn't know about her. And then Annie had sent me this woman's story, and it's just somebody like, Tsutomu Yamaguchi, like that dude who survived the 2 bombs.
Right.
The gentleman who was responsible for putting nitrogen, Fritz Haber, putting nitrogen in fertilizer and wound up being able to feed the world, but also had created some mustard gas and whatnot, some bad byproducts. Like there's all these people who I think should be synonymous, should be on the tip of everybody's tongue, and they're not, right? Because we're so busy knowing exactly who Kim Kardashian banged. So I'm going to add one more today before we get going on losers, because this woman kind of deserves it. Her name was Irena Sendler. In the autumn of 1942, a 32-year-old Polish social worker named Irena Sendler, Sendler, not Adam Sandler, I apologize. Irena Sendler, she passed through the gates of the Warsaw Ghetto with a carpenter's toolbox in her arms. Beneath the hammers and nails lay a drugged 6-month-old infant, breathing softly, utterly silent. One cry would have meant instant death for both of them. Irena smiled at the guards, they waved her through, and they never suspected that this quiet woman would repeat the journey 2,499 more times.
Wow.
She smuggled babies out of concentration camps.
I thought that was such a cool
Fucking
story.
great.
What did I guess you said slightly drugged?
She would drug them.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the whole. I might as well, right?
Because you're just hoping that baby doesn't cry. Like
Exactly.
To me, this is such a story.
I know.
The ghetto was a slow motion extermination, starvation, diseased, and just random murder stalked every street. Jewish parents faced the choice no human being should ever have to make: keep their child and watch them waste away. So this wasn't the concentration camps, excuse me. This was the ghetto. Keep your child and watch them waste away, or hand them to a stranger who promised a chance, it's a thin chance, at some sort of life. So Irena came officially to inspect for typhus, and in reality, she came to steal children from death. Babies left in toolboxes or ambulances under false bottoms, toddlers sedated and tucked into potato sacks.
I know. Crazy,
Older
right?
children led by the hand through the stinking, lightless sewers while German boots marched overhead. Not a sound, she whispered, as rats scurried past their feet. I couldn't do it.
God
I'd be like,
bless her, right?
rat, you know, comrade, help me.
Germans were the biggest loser when it came to Irena Sendler.
Yeah. She knew that the rescued children would be given new names, new religions, new families. Their past would vanish unless someone remembered. This is a nice little detail. So on fragile scraps of tissue paper, Irena wrote each child's real name, their parents' name, and their new hiding place. She rolled the papers tight, slipped them into glass jars, and then buried those jars beneath an apple tree in a neighbor's garden. If she were caught and killed, the truth might still survive about these kids. And she was caught, which sucks. On October 20th, 1943,
Imagine stopping
the
that.
Gestapo kicked in her door. They took her to Powiak prison and demanded the list because they found out there was a list of these babies and where the babies were. When she refused, they smashed both her legs with iron bars, then her feet, and then her arms. For weeks, the beatings continued, and she never spoke. They scheduled her execution, and on the appointed morning, the guards dragged this broken woman from her cell. Instead of a firing squad, she found herself outside of the prison walls, alive. The Polish Underground Council Zagota had bribed a guard to mark her file, shot while trying to escape. So now she was officially dead, but she wound up in the shadows, limping back to keep working. When the war finally ended, the first thing she did was dig up the fucking jars under the apple tree. She spent years trying to return the children, now scattered across convents, farms, and foster homes, to whatever family might remain.
She's like Red, digging it up under the tree.
Almost no parent had survived, but the children had, and because of her, 2,500 Jewish boys and girls lived to grow up, to marry, to have children and grandchildren of their own.
That's awesome.
An entire secret branch of the human family tree that the Nazis never managed to cut down. For decades, her stories stayed buried deeper than the jars themselves when in 1999, 4 high school girls in Kansas stumbled across a mention of her name. They found the old woman still living quietly in Warsaw and brought her courage back into the light. Journalists called her the greatest rescuer of the Holocaust. Irena only shook her head and said, "I could have saved more." She said, "That regret follows me to the grave." Irena Sendler is her name. Armed with nothing but a ghetto work permit, a toolbox, and a refusal to look the other way, proved that even in the heart of the worst evil humanity has ever devised, one determined person, a woman, can still keep the darkness from winning completely. I read that almost word from word from someone named Massimo, who posted it. So those aren't my words at all. But man, if you don't think that you should know or teach your kids when you're talking about heroes, Irena Sendler's name. Like in the United States, didn't we almost change the $20 bill to Harriet Tubman?
Yes, we did.
Right.
From Andrew Jackson, who created, who obviously committed the mortal sin of owning slaves back when everyone fucking owned slaves. Mortal sin of taking land from the Indians when back then everyone was taking land from the Indians. So I don't know whether or not Andrew Jackson's reputation or legacy is where it should be. But we almost put Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill, and Harriet Tubman deserves all the flowers in the world. But look up her stats. How many people did Harriet Tubman send? Hey, Grok, hey, Siri. And that answer is 70. What? And with that Underground Railroad thing, other people were able to use her connections and her routes to maybe 700 people were saved in all. Harriet Tubman, does it say something different?
No, it says 70, which
says
is
70.
maybe the most shocking thing I've read.
Irena Sendler drugged and put into a fucking toolbox, and I know that's not how she did everyone, 2,500 kids, 2,500 babies got to live out lives because of her. That's not saying that Harriet like we talked about Claudette Colvin.
Right.
Remember when they said, get to the back of the bus? And Claudette Colvin had done that so many years earlier, but she was pregnant with an illegitimate child. I think it might have been a white husband and stuff like that. So Rosa Parks got all the headlines. I'm not saying take any shine from Harriet Tubman, but just know this woman, Harriet Tubman couldn't hold her job.
If you know Harriet Tubman's name, you should know Irena's name.
That's a better way.
I will say maybe Harriet Tubman had to cover more ground. Like you're going so far up to Canada or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not apples to apples.
Right. But I'm shocked that 70 is the number.
I was shocked at 2,500.
2,500.
2,500. I'm talking now like I'm playing craps in Brooklyn. 2,500.
Oh no!
I was so surprised by the 2,500, and then I was equally surprised by the 70. And again, like that's not saying apples to apples, but I think Annie said it best. If you know Harriet Tubman's name, you should know Irena Sendler. If you know, Rosa Parks' name, you should know Claudia Colbert. What was Claudia's name? Claudia Colbert?
Colbert? I thought it was Culver.
I thought it was COL.
Maybe let me look.
Here I am saying that, but yeah. So anyway, that's a non-loser story to start out the twisted history of losers.
Claudette Colvin.
Claudette Colvin.
Colvin. She died. She just died too.
And listen, I know Claudette Colvin was brave, didn't want to go to the back of the bus.
I
know Rosa
passed
Parks
away.
did the same thing.
Wow.
And then talking on this other level of 2,500 kids being alive because you snuck them past the Gestapo is something else.
I just don't want people thinking we killed her.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no.
She died January 13, 2026.
We haven't killed anybody.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know if we mentioned her last week. Did we speak about her at all?
No.
No.
Watching the Olympics, so much attention is spent on the winners that I couldn't help but think about the Canadians, right? The losers.
Oh, those cheap
Oh,
bastards.
my God. Yeah, that's terrible. I'm sorry, Canada. By the way, it's crazy how it can't be that much animosity as you see on Twitter. I mean, everyone is so fucking mad at each other between the two countries.
Yeah. It's not a real world.
Yeah, Twitter's just fucking.
Well, they tried to make Michael Jordan a pedophile on Twitter 2 weeks ago, and it's like, what are we doing?
Exactly. So let's talk about some losers. And if we're going to start talking about the Olympics, let's start talking about the fucking Olympics. Based on historical Olympic performance, Bangladesh is the largest country by population. Again, I think that when we do this podcast, I don't know if people know that Bangladesh is a country. You know, like do people automatically think it's a city? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know either.
I could see someone thinking it's a city within a country.
I don't know what the flag looks like. I can tell you that much.
No. It's a newer country, though, right? Didn't it break off from India?
I believe so.
What is their flag?
Anyway, the population is over 170 million people. So Bangladesh is the largest country by population that has never won a medal, despite competing in multiple summer games. Other countries with large populations and no medals include the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Look at that flag. That flag is such a Japanese ripoff.
Yeah, that's just
Japanese Christmas.
I could tell you if you gave me 10 guesses on who that flag belonged to, Bangladesh would not have showed up.
No.
I think we would have known where it was located, though. We would have had an idea, because I think
pointing to Bangladesh on a map, you're saying?
No. I'm saying which region, like which part of the world it's in. Like I think you would know.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be like, oh, what part of South America is that? Like you wouldn't say that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think you would have a roundabout idea. I don't know, it just doesn't, whatever. Claudette Colvin. So it's the largest country by population, over 170 million, that has never won a medal. And other countries with large populations with no medals include Congo, Bhutan, and Somalia. But let's pull back. Bangladesh, Congo, Bhutan, and Somalia, that's not a surprise to me that they've never won a medal. Is that a surprise to anybody? They strike me sort of as the Jamaican bobsled team type thing.
Somalia's not putting a lot of resources into the Olympic athlete development.
Seem like
I
they
don't
do.
believe, no.
And I'm so, I know Congo has some more problems than fielding an Olympic team in any sport.
Right.
I don't know anything about Bhutan.
Right. I don't either.
And I don't know much about Bangladesh. So I'm not going to say they're the worst at the Olympics. If you don't mind, I'm going to decide what country is the worst.
Okay.
India is frequently criticized for its low medal tally. Most of them have been bronze.
I would have thought they would have excelled.
Given its population of over 1.4 billion. There's 1.4 billion Indians. And between 1900, when India became the first Asian nation to enter the Games, which I think is big. Mm-hmm. They were the first people from Asia to take part in the Olympic Games in the year 1900. And they've been competing all the way up till now. So it's 126 years. And India has only won 41 medals in Olympic history.
That surprises me.
10 gold.
They're very they're but as I feel like as a whole, they're very intelligent, motivated, they're very energized. I would have thought it would have been more. But they're also they also pride themselves on intellect. So not that sports aren't, but I'm just saying they might go the route of education and scholarships more than sports.
They actually don't. And I'm going to tell you where all that money goes to. They won 10 gold, 10 silver, and 21 bronze. Mm-hmm. So they wallow in mediocrity as far as that goes. And that's over 126 years. Mm-hmm. And that's with a country that has 1.4 billion people.
Okay.
For comparison, in that same period, the U.S., which has... I wrote down myself 350 million people. I think that's what we have here in the U.S.
Right.
1.4, 350. And over that same time, they have 41 medals, and the USA has over 3,000. You know what I'm saying? So with that gigantic thing, I think that makes them the biggest loser of the Olympics for me. And the reason is... they have an absolute lack of investment in anything but cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
India
India
only spends money on cricket. Not only, but almost exclusively spends money on cricket. It's fucking huge there. Remember
so they're loyal to what they like.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I'm looking at India's Olympic basketball team. Not great.
Yeah.
they've lost to Saudi Arabia by 30 points 3 times in the last.
Oh, that's not
they
good.
tried.
Yeah. Philippines lost by 40. Jordan, they lost by 40. The country of Jordan, you're losing by 40? That's not good.
So say what you want about Bangladesh, Congo, Bhutan, and Somalia, but in my humble opinion, it's India that's the biggest Olympic loser. Cricket is so massive. Out of roughly 1 billion global cricket fans, I've yet to meet a cricket fan outside of Ali.
Have you ever played?
No.
Have you ever played?
I have not.
I don't think I've ever even seen somebody else play it.
I've seen, out of the 1 billion global cricket fans, 90% of them reside in India. So I mean,
Wait, is that what
India's-
they play in Marine Park?
Yes.
I've seen
Put on
that.
their cricket, the whites.
The whites,
Put on
yeah,
the
yeah, it's
whites.
cool. I've seen that.
I think
from a
some
distance,
cricket matches are more than a day long. Like if
Really?
you go to buy a ticket to like a cricket match, you come back the next day or something.
I think
like
there's
that.
2 ways you can play, and like
Yeah.
the traditional way could last days.
Yeah. Because
My-
one of my analysts, Ali Agha, he was huge into
Oh,
cricket.
really?
He was huge. And then when they
Is
had
he an
that
Indian
cricket,
guy?
Ali is from
I guess that makes
Pakistan.
his name.
He's from
Yeah.
Lahore.
My neighbors in Indiana that lived above me, I believe India won like the World Cup of cricket whenever I was living there, and you could hear them going nuts
Oh, that's fun.
for
Yeah.
2 weeks.
But yeah, like we could see with Brazil, like Brazil being so World Cup heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how well Brazil does in anything other than football, World Cup soccer, and beach volleyball. They're awesome beach
Really?
volleyball. Yeah, 'cause they
Makes
have
sense.
no hair on their vaginas.
Aerodynamic.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, in my humble opinion, India, you're the biggest losers in the Olympics. Yep. Let's stay with sports. 3 NFL teams went winless in a season, including the 0-16 Lions in 2008, the 0-16 Browns in 2017. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this was before the season was 16 games, went 0-14 in their inaugural season as an NFL franchise. So Tampa Bay lobbies to get an NFL team. They get it. They come down. They go 0-14 in their first year, which is demoralizing. When asked to comment on his team's execution, Bucs head coach John McKay said he was in favor of it, which is cool.
Good effort out there. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Kill him.
McKay was the former coach of USC, and at this low point in his NFL career, he's also quoted as saying, "I keep a picture of O.J. Simpson by my side at all times to remind me of the days when I knew how to coach." That didn't age well either. Yeah, unfortunately.
Like milk.
Yeah, exactly. That 0-14 season, and then they went on to lose their first 12 games of their second season in 77. Meaning the Tampa Bay Buccaneers started 0-26 as a franchise. That's loser shit.
That's
I'd
not
say
good.
so.
That's not good.
That's loser shit. If the Indiana Bears
Oh no!
in Hammond, Indiana, were to start their triumphant, whatever in the NFL, and they went winless the first season, and then the second season, mind you, only has 14 games. They lose the first 12. And then they won the last 2 games of that season to go 2-12, but 0-26, tough to buy a sweatshirt.
No.
Yeah.
Tough to buy a jersey. How about some baseball? In a 162-game regular MLB season, the 2024 White Sox, right? We just watched this record-breaking season, but happened before our very eyes in 2024. The White Sox lost 121 games. So 162 games, they lost 121 of them, which means 3 out of every 4 games that the White Sox played, they fucking lost. Imagine you're just season tickets and you go and they're only winning games at a 25% clip.
It's kind of
terrible.
The Pacers right now. They're tanking
Little
right
bit,
now.
yeah.
And it's just watching games is just brutal.
Yeah.
I'd rather clean the gutters or go get dental surgery.
I can't imagine though, like they broke a bunch of records. They were the fastest team to lose 100 games in a season in over 100 years when they did it. They had the earliest playoff exit since the divisional era began in 1969. We're talking about 2024. And then with 6 games to go, they kind of stuck it to the fans a little bit more inadvertently. 6 games to go, they had 120 losses, which was tied for the most ever. So fans were like, we're going to break the record and be the worst team ever in baseball. So fans started to buy tickets for their last 6 games. Their last 6 games were at home versus the Angels, and then the last 3 were at Detroit. So all these hometown fans wound up packing the stadium. First game against the Angels, they beat them 3-2. Second game against the Angels, they beat them 4-3. Third game against the Angels, they blanked them 7-0. So the home team didn't even get to see them break, the record. Then they go to Detroit, and Detroit beats them in the first game of the 3-game series, and that's when they had set history. So the White Sox are arguably the 2024 White Sox are arguably the biggest losers as a team.
I
in
can't help
baseball
but think
history.
that Pete Rose kind of lost a little bit there in baseball.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to call Pete Rose a loser, I think you.
But I say that because right after he died, they wanted to put him in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He lost out, right? Like that's technically him losing out.
But he was such a stud. Like, that's what I mean. Like, more of a fall from grace type thing. If you look at, so individually, I'm going to say the White Sox, worst team ever, biggest losers ever in Major League Baseball, at least for the 2024 season. John Gochnaur is not a household name, partially because he's been dead for almost 100 years. But when people see his stats, when he played in both Brooklyn and Cleveland between 1900 and 1903, he was widely cited as the worst player in the history due to his abysmal fielding. He had 146 errors in 264 games.
Wow.
and he batted 187. He retired after the 1903 season and became an ump and a cop. But I never feel comfy using a guy from that long ago when it comes to sports. So maybe we can consider someone in the modern era like the New York Mets pitcher Anthony Young. If Frank the Tank was here and I said that name out loud, I'm sure that would receive a hell of a reception.
Yes.
Yeah.
Positive or negative?
Very negative. He died young.
Probably a good laugh, a good belly laugh from Frank.
Yeah. Yes. He died very young in 2017 at the age of 51. I believe he had, was he the guy who had the aneurysm? He died suddenly. But before that, from May 6th of 1992 until July 24th of 1993, he lost 27 consecutive games. He's a pitcher. That means every time it was 0-14 as a starter. Every time he took the mound, he lost, and he was 0-13 as a reliever. That's fucking awful. So I'm not saying he's the biggest loser, and rest in peace. I don't mean anything like that. But when he finally broke that streak of 27 losses in a row for a pitcher, he was quoted as saying, "It wasn't just a monkey off my back; it was the whole damn zoo." Ooh. Yeah, so Anthony Young has got to be up there as a baseball loser. NBA, individual players, who's the biggest loser? I think it's tough to call. A lot of people say Greg Oden.
Oh, don't put his name in there. He's an Indiana boy.
And it was injury.
Yes.
It's his knees.
And to kind of what we've been talking about, to be a big loser, you kind of have to be a huge winner at some point. Because Greg Oden was a legend. In
Ohio State.
High school, he was a legend. And then Ohio State, he should have won a national title, but he broke his wrist and still was dominating with his left hand.
So he comes to the NBA, has bad knees, and never works out. So even though they consider him a big flop, like a Tony Mandarich type flop or a Ryan Leaf or something like that, I don't consider him the biggest loser. And the reason that I don't is because there's a guy whose name is JamesOn Curry, and he holds the record for the shortest NBA career. On January 22nd, 2010, Curry signed a 10-day contract with the Clippers. He subbed into a game on January 25th, and he played just 3.9 seconds. He couldn't get it to 4 seconds. This was the only time Curry would ever play in an NBA game, and is the shortest NBA career in terms of times played. He was released by the Clippers on January 26th, the next day, when the team acquired Bobby Brown.
Did he lose a bet? Like the Clippers lose a bet? Why would someone hire someone for a 10-day contract?
So they can. So this guy Curry came out. He was developmental players in the D League, and they needed a body, so they brought him up just to have him ride the bench. And it winds up, just by bad coincidence, he does get in for a game, puts in 3.9 seconds, probably at the end of the game or something, 0.0 assists, 0 rebounds, just nothing. And then, they made a big trade for a player, and he was sent back down to developmental league, the D League, and he never made it back up. So I don't know if you could use that as your rubric for deciding who's a loser and who's not. Anthony Young, 27 straight games going up to the mound and walking off with your face in your glove. And also this gentleman working to be in the NBA and only being there for 3.9 seconds.
It's tough.
That's tough, right? Yeah. And I apologize, Jameson Curry, but he's arguably the least productive player in league history.
Right.
Can we say that? He came up 3.9 seconds. I gave you my all, and I got shipped out of town. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that it goes.
Is that common? Do they commonly sign somebody on for days?
10-day contract? Yeah, those are common.
When you need I thought you meant only playing 3.9 seconds.
I'm not used to that.
Yes,
so
you can get signed for a small just to fill needs. But I will tell you, a lot of people. Do you remember the name DeSagana Diop? 2001 NBA draft was before you.
I don't.
He was a 7-footer from Senegal. He came out of Oak Hill Academy, which we all know, and so. Coming out of Oak Hill Academy, straight from high school to the NBA, he was drafted 8th in the first round by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and expectations were high. This is 2001, right? This isn't, wasn't playing against Wemby and stuff like that. This is a 7-footer who's in the league in 2001, and he didn't meet those expectations. He wound up playing 11 seasons. He was in 11 seasons, and his average was just 2 points a game. He did 14 minutes a game. Over 11 seasons was his average, and he averaged 2 points as a fucking 7-footer.
Right.
That's one putback a game for 11 seasons.
Some Miles Turner numbers right there. Yeah, it's pathetic. If you're 7 feet tall, you should be getting some boards.
He never averaged more than 3 rebounds a game his whole career. 2 points and 3 rebounds for a 7-footer who they used a first-round draft pick and came in thinking he was going to. So I don't know. Maybe I'm too harsh on JamesOn Curry because he was a victim of circumstance. He got moved out after 3.9 seconds. JamesOn Curry in the D-League?
No, Diop. Did he?
No.
He sucks here, but was he outstanding in this capacity?
I think he's a good man. I don't know.
Yes,
maybe he's a great father.
Yeah.
Wonderful cook.
Off the court.
More of a baker. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But otherwise. And then, so we're just coming to conclusions here because there is no real recipe on how to pop out who's the worst at everything, but I'm putting DeSagana Diop on the top.
Okay.
The easiest one for me to do for who's the biggest loser in the NBA is much easier when it comes to teams, right? Because Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting their franchise 0-26, I think is the fucking worst. And I also think what happened with, when you say teams, everyone's like, oh, the Washington Generals. I don't count them. I mean, I know that, they lose their fucking...
You got to count them.
I love them. I think it's just silly, but I love, I love that they're doing it, so I don't want to come on here and call them losers.
Yeah, they're putting effort in there. Yeah.
The biggest losers in the NBA were the 1972-73 Philadelphia 76ers.
So do you think the Washington Generals players, kind of get depressed? Do you think it's like we've never won? You know what I mean? We're just clowns.
I was going to put them in here, right? And I started to feel bad, and then there's all these, not feel bad, nobody gives a shit. There's all these different stats on how many times they actually beat the Globetrotters. I think people say either 6 or 7 times, and they put the losses at 17,000 or something wild like that. So I don't know, if they're paid, they're just paid actors.
Right.
Really. It's a WWE of basketball.
True.
And I love it. You know
great.
what I mean? Honestly, I do. I love it more than not more than anything. But we even go to that bullshit one.
The Wizards?
There's a local one called the Wizards. When they came to Ridgewood last week, we didn't go because the kids are older now. But when the kids were younger, you couldn't get a ticket.
Yeah,
because then they'd pull the staff out, they'd pull the teachers, and the kids would be able to see the teachers
play against them.
The happiest I think I've ever been in this career was when the Harlem Globetrotters came in and they spun 2 basketballs on my fingers at the same time. I was like, yeah.
Is there a picture of Vibsy doing that somewhere?
It was part of a video. Tyler I Am. He dragged me into that video, and it was like,
I love it.
How's he doing?
He's doing well, I guess. I follow him on social media.
So do I. I don't see too much.
Yeah, I always want to message him, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to step on him and
I don't know
bother him.
Yeah, Tyler was a good man.
Yeah.
So, biggest losers in the NBA. It's tough for Philly people to hear, but it was the 1972-73 Philadelphia 76ers. I'm going to tell you why. 1973 was a period between 2 golden eras for the Sixers. They traded Wilt Chamberlain in 1968, Wilt to Stilt, right? And they wouldn't acquire Dr. J until 1976 when the leagues combined, the ABA and the NBA. So this was like that shrug period in between the Wilt Chamberlain days and the Dr. J days, which were both great times to be 76er fans. In between there, in that 72-73 season, the Sixers had a 9-win, 73-loss record, which is a .110 winning percentage. They stunk. There were only 17 teams in the NBA at that point, and the Philadelphia, right, is before the ABA merger, and the Philadelphia 76ers finished 12 games out of 16th place. So they were dead last, and they were 12 games away from being second to dead last. That's pathetic. And it was made even more painful because that team went 68-13 and won it all just 6 years prior with Wilt Chamberlain. And they were on the precipice of getting Dr. J, even though they didn't know it.
Philly's kind of a loser city because I think sorry, John.
Yeah.
But I think the Phillies.
John's not here. Yeah.
Right.
Fuck yeah.
I think the first team to lose 10,000 baseball games was the Philadelphia Phillies. Yeah.
Wow.
So they're just taking shots.
They're the teams that they're the city that booed Santa, right?
Threw batteries
they
at
threw
him.
batteries.
Or snowballs.
Yeah, snowballs.
Oh.
Like they booed like Kobe's mom. Remember Kobe's
Right,
mom?
yeah.
Because Kobe's from there. Like,
Right.
Kind of from.
They booed her.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough fans.
All right.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mentioned that the Sixers were in between Wilt and Dr. J. So I think I'm going to mention what happened when Dr. J came to Philly because it also created some losers. Dr. J, Julius Erving, he actually came to the NBA that year after playing for the Nets in the ABA. In his final season in the ABA, Doc won the championship. He finished in the top 10 in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, steals per game, blocks per game, free throw percentage, free throws made, free throws attempted, 3-point field goal percentage, and 3-pointers made.
So there is an I in team with Erving.
Dr. J was top 10 after winning the championship and the MVP that year. He's top 10. This is the only season in the history of the ABA or the NBA when such a feat was accomplished, and it will never be accomplished again. We'll never have a champion MVP that is top 10 in all of those stats. At least I don't think so. So when the ABA and the NBA merger was announced for the beginning of the 76 season, Julius Erving was a hot commodity. But the Nets, who he played for in the ABA, were poised to pick up right where they left off. They had no intention of letting their franchise player go. However, the Knicks were upset by the Nets' plans. The Knicks upset the Nets' plans when they demanded that the Nets pay them $4.8 million for invading the Knicks' NBA territory when the merger had gone through. So the Knicks had essentially sued the Nets for nearly $5 million, saying, now that this merger's gone through, this is unfair competition, you being so close to Knicks territory, right?
Sounds about right.
This came on the heels of the fees the Nets had to pay for joining the NBA. You couldn't just join the NBA during the merger. I think you had to pay like a $3 million cover charge. So it was expensive to join the NBA. And owner Roy Bowe reneged on a promise to raise Erving's salary, so Erving refused to play for him and held out in training camp. After several teams like the Bucks, the Lakers, and the 76ers lobbied to obtain Dr. J, the Nets offered Erving's contract to the Knicks in return for the Knicks waiving that $4.8 million. And the Knicks turned it down. They were like, we don't want Dr. J. Give us the money. And since we're talking about losers, that's considered one of the most loser decisions in franchise history.
Who made that decision?
I have no idea who's in charge of the
name.
Knicks way back
Get him
then.
in here.
Yeah.
Even before Dolan.
We'll blame Dolan, but it is what
awful.
it is. So the Sixers then decided to buy Dr. J's contract for $3 million, about the same cost that the Nets were paying to join the NBA. So the Nets were like, yes, please. Again, a loser fucking move because they sign away the best player in the NBA essentially to have the cover charge covered to get into the league. So the Nets give up Dr. J for the Philadelphia 76ers. So here's a little bit of a turnaround for Philly because I was just shitting on you guys as being losers for that other season. And they wound up getting Dr. J and, whatever. The Nets then...
Oh, his name is spelled with an E.
Erving, yeah.
I thought it was with an I. That's why I said it. There's an I in team.
The Erving deal left the Nets in ruin.
So good.
Yeah. The Nets went from having that wonderful season the year before to a 22-60 record, the worst in the league. And years later, that same owner, Roy Bowe, regretted having to trade Erving Erving to join the NBA, saying the merger agreement killed the Nets as an NBA franchise. So perhaps that could be considered as the biggest loser in the history of the NBA. Okay?
Fair.
Somebody just say, wait, no?
No, I said fair.
There's a lot of sports talk for me. Let's switch gears. This poor bastard is also synonymous with the word loser. His name is Ronald Wayne. Do you remember this name at all?
I do not.
You shouldn't, but maybe some people will. Because it's just like one of those generic names.
RW.
Once I tell the story, everyone will remember who the fuck
did
he is.
RW
Relative
do?
of Batman.
Yeah, he was the guy.
Bruce Wayne, Ronald Wayne.
He's still around. He turns 92 this May.
Yeah.
In 1971, he started his first business designing and manufacturing slot machines. But it was a total failure, and he shut his doors after a year. Broke his heart. In 1973, he became a designer at Atari, which was the top of the video game food chain at the time. Atari was big.
It was right up there within television.
Yeah, he was well respected for his sophisticated and comprehensive internal corporate documentation systems, and it was there that he met co-workers Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And eventually Jobs proposed founding a computer company led by Wozniak and himself. Those two would each hold a 45% stake, with Wayne, Ronald Wayne, receiving a 10% stake to act as a tiebreaker in business decision. As business decisions. As the venture's self-described adult in the room, Wayne actually drafted the original partnership agreement, and the three of those boys, Ronald Wayne, Wozniak, and Jobs, founded Apple Computer on April 1st, 1976.
Wow.
Wayne created the first illustrations of the Apple logo and also wrote Apple's first operational manual. He was the dude. He was the guy in the garage.
That guy, yeah.
Now you kind of remember his story, right?
Yeah.
You know, so these guys have 45 and 45. He has 10% of Apple. But the difference between Wayne and the duo of Jobs and Wozniak is that Wayne had that slot machine biz that failed. So he wasn't as daring as the other two, and his risk aversion led him to leave. 12 days after he created the document that formally created Apple, he returned to the county registrar's office, filing an amendment, formally withdrawing his name and all of his involvement in the company.
I wonder if he had a shady, something shady, and they made him do it.
This guy is still alive. There's this is well publicized.
Because he was much older than them.
I think you guys know the story, right? Like everyone kind of knows the story. I'm going to tell a couple of stories that people probably know.
Right.
But this is way out in the open. He was paid $800, equivalent to $5,000 today, in exchange for relinquishing his equity stake in the company. And 1 year later, he accepted an additional payment of $1,500, equivalent to maybe $10,000, to forfeit any So he was paid a sum total of $2,300 to forfeit any potential future claims against the newly incorporated company at Jobs' and Wozniak's request. So that equivalent today of $15,000 that he took to walk away, and this is painful to say, he got paid $15,000. Ronald Wayne's 10% stake in Apple would be worth, do you know how much today?
Got to be close to $1 billion.
Yeah, I'd say in the $2.4 billion.
Somewhere in between 300 and 400 billion.
Okay.
So that $1,500 now would be worth 350 billion with a B.
Why is he still alive?
Yeah.
I gotta that would have crushed my spirit years ago, decades ago.
I'm jumping out a window.
Yeah.
That's a loser type thing. Unfortunately,
The only thing I can think
don't mean to do that to the old guy, but
there's got to be something there. There's got to be more to it.
Wayne has said on numerous occasions, and by the way, the pain isn't over. Wayne has said on numerous occasions that he does not regret selling his share of the company. He said that after losing his slot biz, he was getting too old, and that those other two men, Jobs and Woz, were whirlwinds. Although Apple eventually became the most valuable company in the world at one point, he said that given the risks and stress of staying with Apple, he probably would have wound up the richest man in the cemetery. Okay. I'm kind of come around.
So he chose a life,
but
longevity.
This is what gets me. In an interview in April of 2016, he said that his one regret, not the $350 billion he left on the table, it's tough to say, he actually sold his copy of the original contract to a collector for $500. That collector turned it around years later and sold it for $2.5 million. This fucking guy can't catch a break.
Can't win.
You know what? If you believe in karma at all, you know this guy has a secret past. He donated money to a wrong cause somewhere. There's no doubt in my mind. You don't have this much. I don't think this guy's a loser. I think he might have a few skeletons in his closet.
I don't. He's 90.
Seems like karma's a little bit of that's what I'm saying. He's still alive. Only the good die young. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe
You're out of your mind. Right, similar story.
Call it like I see it.
I know. This is going to be a similar story, so I grouped them together as somebody who passed on a fortune. That's a guy named Dick Rowe, Richard Rowe. And he was at Deckard Records. Dick Rowe at Decca Records. On New Year's Day, 1962, Decca had the Beatles in for an audition. And Dick Rowe famously rejected them, telling the Beatles manager, Brian Epstein, that guitar groups are on the way out. So it's like, not drafting Jordan number 1. This seems to be.
These guys need to get a haircut. I don't like them.
Previously, Rowe had been known as the man with the golden ear, but in 1962, that ear failed him, and he passed on the Beatles to sign a group called the Tremellos instead. I'm not familiar with the Tremellos. No. After the miss on the Beatles, George Harrison recommended that Dick Rowe sign the Rolling Stones, which he did. So he did avoid another huge mistake. Right. It's one of the reasons I was hesitant to put him here. Sure, he whiffed on the Beatles. I get it. But Rowe discovered and signed the Rolling Stones, Van Morrison, Tom Jones.
He learned from his
Cat
mistakes.
Stevens,
That's
the
fair.
Moody Blues, Procol Harum, the Animals, and Engelbert Humperdinck, which is very fun to say. Plus his son, Richard Rowe, was the president at Sony Music Publishing, and he played a crucial role in that deal. Remember when Michael Jackson's ATV catalog? He had that. Michael Jackson, the ATV catalog was this catalog that he had bought. It had all the Beatles.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
It's like Sony wanted to merge with Michael Jackson for that, so Sony could offer, I guess, the Beatles catalog on whatever their services and whatnot. Michael Jackson was like, I don't want to do this necessarily. And the guy said, well, listen, my name is Richard Rowe. And he's like, okay, my dad was Dick Rowe. He was like, yours dad was the guy who missed out on the opportunity to sign the Beatles? He was like, yeah. Michael Jackson's like, all right, I'll sign it. Because he didn't want to miss out on something, or he just felt bad or thought that his dad was. So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of cool that it comes around. But either way, I feel like he's one of those guys who's meant and who should be meant. The Beatles have got a lot of fucking shit going on. But go ahead.
I looked up the Tremellos, and they look like the most knockoff Beatles of all time. And they don't have a cute Paul McCartney in the group. No. They all look like accountants.
You ever hear the conspiracy that Paul McCartney died years ago?
For sure. Yeah,
I just heard this one recently. That blew my mind.
And they're like leaving little breadcrumbs in the songs to let you know that he's dead. Yeah.
I didn't know that Stuart Sutcliffe, the original guy, because he's called the fifth Beatle. The fifth Beatle, I always consider that kid Pete Best. Remember they had a drummer, the Beatles?
No, I didn't follow them at all. I was never a Beatles fan.
The Beatles had a different drummer. His name was Pete Best.
Who was Ringo was the drummer, right?
Yeah, so Ringo Starr became their drummer when they fired Pete Best. So they fired Pete Best, and they brought in Ringo, who's more like a session drummer, a studio drummer. And so that guy, Pete Best never got to take part in the Wine and Roses days of the Beatles.
They would have never been the Beatles if they kept him, obviously.
Yeah, but even before that, there was a guy whose name was Stuart Sutcliffe, and he was also called like the fifth Beatle, or at least the Lost Beatle, because he was their original bass player. But Sutcliffe and John Lennon are credited with inventing the name Beatles, because they both like Buddy Holly's band's name, the Crickets. But Stuart left in 1961 to pursue painting.
Oh,
yeah.
How'd that work out for him?
Well, he died in 1962, a year later, of the brain hemorrhage. Oh. Remember I mentioned somebody died of a brain hemorrhage?
Right.
Yeah, it was this guy, so I had it. So Stuart Sutcliffe, certainly not a loser, but he was the original bass player of the Beatles who left to pursue a career in painting. We never see that to come to fruition because he died of an aneurysm
that's a shame.
A year later. And then Pete Best was just the guy who got kicked out because he wasn't a good enough drummer. All righty?
Ringo Starr made a name for himself independent of the Beatles, right?
Yeah. He was in the movie Caveman.
How's his acting? Good?
Terrible.
Terrible. But he was married to Daisy Duke or her sister?
Peace and love.
Maybe her sister.
I'll no longer be signing autographs. Peace and love. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
You walked around for a month doing that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. I'm going to bounce
Who's
around.
This guy?
What about the actual biggest loser of weight? Again, we just pulled Frank the Tank in.
Put Frank the Tank, he's pumping weight with Arnold now.
That's crazy.
That was awesome.
We had
that was pretty cool.
We had Jenks in for You Got to Try This, and Jenks was going through like all the stuff. The amount of motivation that Frank is finally like woken up to, it's unbelievable. He doesn't want to miss a day.
I love that.
He doesn't want to miss a day.
He's sick as a dog. He's still walking. It's snowing. He's still walking.
Yeah.
He's invested.
But who's the actual biggest loser of weight in history? And it's a guy named Khalid bin Mohsen Shaari. And I put a picture of him in there.
Is this like a Saudi prince?
Wow.
He's a 34-year-old Saudi Arabian man.
Okay.
Who in August 2013 was found to be the heaviest. I should start that over.
He's
a
big boy.
I get excited when I'm reading about fat people, fellow fat people. He's he's still alive. 34-year-old Saudi, who in August of 13 was found to be the heaviest living person, and the second heaviest person in recorded history. He weighed 1,340 pounds.
Whoa.
There's got to be some sort of like ramification for the people who are taking care of him.
Well, Saudi King Abdullah found out about this. And that's how this guy lost this weight. So he started at 1,340 pounds, which is tough to say out loud, right? Because that's a small car, right? Like that's a Yugo.
It's a Fiat.
Yeah. So King Abdullah brings him to for medical treatment, diet, and all that stuff.
That was nice.
He lost 710 pounds, more than half his body weight, in 6 months. In 6 months, this guy's down 710 pounds.
Did they say why, what he did to change that?
I will
Obviously,
tell
they
you.
starved him. They stopped eating. I know that.
So August 2013, he goes in, loses 710 pounds. By November of 2017...
That's not the same guy.
He lost 1,195 pounds and got down to $150. He went from being 1,340 pounds to $150. In January of 2018, he had the last of a series of surgeries to remove the fucking miles of excess skin that accumulated due to his weight loss. I mean, he must have looked like a pile of laundry.
The before and after photos are crazy.
That's not the same guy.
It looks like they're using like a white guy and then a black guy in the after
there's
photos.
no way that's the same guy.
It looks very different.
I will tell you.
When he hit the beach after he hit the gym?
I will tell you.
Then the laundry?
If you lost 1,000 pounds and you're going to tell me that doesn't look like the same guy?
That's not the same dude.
It's because he lost
I love you.
1,000 fucking
I
pounds.
love you to death.
100%.
But that guy's hairline went from the back, like the top of his skull to his brow. There's no way. No. I love you, but
I will say
way.
the surgeries.
I will tell you, Ed, that you're looking at one picture of this guy.
He's 1,000 pounds. Yeah.
He's
That's
11.
not
He's
the same
1,100
guy.
pounds smaller,
Oh, you're so
and you're
cute.
saying he doesn't look like the same guy.
Mike,
This
no,
whole conspiracy
I'm not
thing.
saying-
Stop. It's that's the guy. This is a national news story, and you think by seeing
He
two
looks
fucking
different.
grainy pictures and that he looks different, he's 1,000 pounds lighter.
Yes,
he had a
yes.
dozen fucking surgeries, and you're saying that can't be him. He's tan with a different haircut.
But he looks
Listen to
totally
you. It's a fucking global story.
I know.
King Abdullah brought him to the fucking kingdom. It was like the Truman Show, and you're saying that's not the same shirt. Are you out of your fucking mind? He
can't
lost
even-
1,100 pounds.
You can't look at the camera.
He started at 1,340, and by 2017, he got down to 150. He's the biggest loser of weight in human history. Yeah, he definitely looks a little different.
I know
I will
he
definitely
looks
give you that.
A little. I'm just saying,
Consider
the face
this.
doesn't look like the exact same guy at all.
Consider this.
Yes.
There's a show called The Biggest Loser, right?
Yes. Stephanie's cousin won it.
In reality, is the true Biggest Loser the guy who comes in second in Biggest Loser? Because he actually
Whoever lost the
in
most
the-
amount
yeah.
of weight is the biggest loser.
But is in reality the true Biggest Loser the guy who lost the second most amount of weight?
But in the end, we're all
Arguably, yeah,
winners.
because he
Because
lost.
he just lost the Biggest Loser, and he just lost the fucking whatever pounds. All right, back to history. Let's talk generals. So like I said earlier, when we were talking about who's the biggest loser in history, and you want to look at big historical figures, and you throw out names like, I don't know, a guy like Napoleon. Like that was the guy who seemed to come up again. Jack Mack had thrown out Hillary.
Yes.
Right? He was like, just politically she was groomed to be like this whole thing, and she had a tough time with in elections and whatnot. There are a bunch of people that you could put out.
I said Hitler.
Hitler we spoke about numerous times, particularly on the fall from grace thing. We did talk about Hitler and him, obviously in the bunker, ending his life the day after he got married. Mm-hmm. And Napoleon didn't have a good time at the end of his life either. But since we just did them, I decided to do somebody that we haven't done before. I've never talked about Santa Anna. Right?
No.
I barely know anything about him. I just know that he was there at the Alamo and whatnot. Because I don't think enough people know about Mexico's Santa Anna. His real name was Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. He was born in Veracruz, but he joined the Spanish Army at 16. So a little bit of a background. Mexico at the point that I'm talking about was owned by Spain, for all intents and purposes. So he joined the Spanish Army at 16, but later switched sides to help Mexico win independence in 1821. He gained national fame as the hero of Tampico, defeating a Spanish attempt to reconquer Mexico in 1829. The years after Mexico gained independence from Spain became known as the Age of Santa Anna. He served as president 11 times. So Mexico went from being owned by Spain to now being on their own. So there was this huge... Everything was in flux and in disarray. So you hear about like these puppet dictators, the guy we just removed from Venezuela. This is kind of what had happened with Santa Anna. He's like, I'm the general, I'm the most popular guy around, I'm in charge. So either on an interim basis or as a total dictator, he was running Mexico at 11 different points during history.
A 22-year span.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a long time to stay relevant in that position, right?
Yeah. In 1834, he dissolved Congress and revoked the 1824 Constitution, imposing a dictatorship. Then came the Texas Revolution, in which Santa Anna led a large army to crush the Texas Rebellion, culminating in the brutal siege of the Alamo, where he won, but it took him 13 days and too many Mexican lives for his army of just over 2,000 to defeat only 200 Texicans.
Remember when you were at the Alamo?
Yeah, the Alamo is not that impressive.
That's what everyone says.
He called me the Alamo. Impressive. He's like, this is it.
It's never meet your heroes, right?
Yeah.
Like we walked around.
Like the Liberty Bell.
Yeah, we walked around Graceland, and I was like, it's when we had like a bigger house at the time. Uh-huh. I think my house is nicer than Graceland. The one that we were when we were in Graceland. I was like, I can't wait to go home. Where's the urinals?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it was legitimately a lived-in home, which is not bad. It's just that you're so used to cribs, and it's like...
We're so ruined.
We are ruined as a society. Yeah, I agree.
Because...
I mean, that
the
green
dude from
shag
Drake
carpet
and Josh
was
has
used.
a better house than
Elvis.
fucking Elvis Presley. That's not a dig. Drake and Josh was a great show.
Every spring break, we had to go to Thomas Edison's summer home.
Oh, really?
Down in Fort Myers, Florida. And that, as a 10 to 13-year-old kid, that's the lamest place you can get. It's like, we have to go back again.
Yeah.
Especially if you go to Florida for a trip.
100%.
Right? You'd be like, ooh,
just
beach,
some old,
bikinis.
dusty house.
Right. But think about Mexico.
Good lighting.
Great lighting. Oh, my God.
In like the 1820s and 1830s. They're free from Spain, and now they want to like sink their claws into Texas and keep Texas as their own. Parts of California, the whole deal. Because Mexico was originally a lot bigger, and you're going to see what had happened in a second. So on top of winning at the Alamo, and like I said, it wasn't that impressive of a win, to be honest with you, but he was also responsible right afterwards for something called the Goliad Massacre, which I didn't ever hear of, but there were 440 prisoners of war from the Republic of Texas. They had 440 people that were promised their freedom after like the war got sorted out. And in the Goliad Massacre, it was Santa Anna who had ordered their execution instead. So 440 men were put to death. But that's actually the positive side of his resume, right? He went through all these battles and whatnot as Mexico was winning its independence and then trying to increase its footprint. But the shit hit the fan at the Battle of San Jacinto on April 21st, 1836. That's where Santa Anna got cocky. He split his forces, he ignored basic scouting, he camped poorly, and he actually took a siesta during the afternoon of April 21st. He took his siesta.
It's the culture. You got a siesta.
Culture.
Yeah.
But he took a siesta without leaving scouts out.
Right.
So Sam Houston's much smaller force surprised and annihilated his sleeping army at San Jacinto in about 18 to 20 minutes. Imagine that. Like San Jacinto is actually, I think it's called the 18-minute war.
Yeah.
It's called the fucking 18-minute war because Sam Houston came in and wiped everybody out while they were essentially asleep.
On their siesta.
Is he
That's
the guy
crazy.
that I'm looking at it now? Wasn't he like the character that they fashioned El Guapo after in the Three Amigos?
Oh, kind of. I mean, there's a lot
Right?
of.
There's like a- like they
Would you say I
parodied
have
him.
a plethora?
What
would
is
you
a
say?
plethora?
Yeah. But it's at the 18-minute war, 630 Mexican soldiers were killed, 730 more were captured, and only 9 Texans had died. Santa Anna, during this war, was also captured. He was disguised as a private, allegedly yelling, "Don't shoot me, I'm a general." They realized that he might have been a general because I believe he was wearing like red satin slippers. They essentially caught him in his pajamas.
Right.
Which is fucking crazy. He was forced to sign treaties recognizing Texas independence, and he was humiliated. So Mexico lost Texas largely because of his incompetence. It's a big chunk to lose, right? After Texas, he was exiled. First to the U.S. and then Cuba, but he kept bouncing back like a bad penny. Again, Mexico was in the midst of trying to maintain its lands and maintain its newfound independence. So they were at war quite a bit. He lost his leg after it was shattered by a French cannon. Right? Cannon, grape shot from a
No
French
more
cannon.
matching red slippers.
During the Battle of Veracruz in 1838, which is also known as the Pastry War. It's called the Pastry War because there was a French bakery in Mexico that had an outstanding bill by a Mexican. They complained. It went up the chain to the point where the French, military had said, pay this bill or we're going to fucking invade.
Are you making this up?
I swear to God, that's how the Pastry War started in Veracruz. And it was in that war that General Santa Anna had his fucking leg blown off by a French cannon.
After he got caught by his red slippers.
That was in San Jacinto. Wasn't in the Alamo. That wasn't in the the hero of Tampico. The guy was busy. He was in a lot of wars, but a lot of them didn't go his way. You were about to ask
I was going to say, were you a fan of King of the Hill? Isn't there an episode where they steal Santa Anna's leg and
it's so fucking wild.
Hank
you
Hill's
say that.
dad?
His leg was amputated.
Uh-huh.
Right, his leg was amputated, and it was buried at his home. But later in 1842, he had that same leg exhumed and brought to Mexico City for an elaborate state funeral to boost his political image. So the actual leg, the flesh and bone leg, had a state funeral, just the leg, right? And I'm going to talk about the other thing in a second. The Mexican-American War started in 1846, and he was recalled again to be the supposed savior of that war. He took command and proceeded to lose repeatedly to U.S. forces under Zachary Taylor and Winfield Scott. Key defeats included Buena Vista, Cerro Gordo, where his poor positioning and overconfidence led the Americans to outmaneuver him. Mexico lost the war, ceding roughly half of its territory, including California, New Mexico, and Arizona, in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This is after losing Texas. He lost parts of California, New Mexico, and Arizona to the United States. This guy's a fucking loser. During the war, Santa Anna famously wore a cork and wood prosthetic leg, but U.S. soldiers from the 4th Illinois Infantry stole his prosthetic leg, which was then passed down and displayed in state fairs for years. Give me a nickel and you can see Santa Anna's legs. And now it's displayed in the Illinois State Military Museum. So I think that's the thing that you were referring to.
Yeah.
They went and they stole his fake leg.
Yeah, I think Hank Hill and Dale stole his leg from, I don't know, a museum.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the leg right there.
Yeah.
So since Santa Anna's leadership was a major factor in the
They
disaster,
put a sticker on it.
he then fled into exile again, this time to Jamaica. His final comeback, he returned in the 1850s, declared himself dictator of Mexico for life with the title The Most Serene Highness, sold the Mesilla Valley, which was in the Gadsden Purchase, to the U.S. for cash to fund his regime, got accused of treason, was overthrown in 1855, and exiled for nearly 20 years, mostly to the Caribbean. He finally returned to Mexico in old age, poor and forgotten, dying in Mexico City in 1876, essentially a broke, one-legged has-been loser.
Loser.
Damn.
Santa Anna's a fucking loser. In short, Santa Anna, with delusions of grandeur and tactical stupidity, helped win Mexico's independence and early defense victories, but then presided over and often directly caused the loss of more than half of Mexico's territory through repeated avoidable military and political failures. Mexico is half the place it should have been, and most of that blame can be put on Santa Anna. Historians remember him as one of world history's greatest underachievers, a guy who could have been a national hero, but instead became a poster child for incompetent, self-serving leadership, or that total one-legged loser who was captured in his pajamas, forced to sign away Texas, and eventually lost half of Mexico's entire territory to the U.S. That's Santa Anna. That's undeniably a loser.
That's a loser's tale right there. Yeah.
I think that is.
Definitely.
Yeah. Who loses more in gambling than any other country? What country loses the most in gambling per capita?
China.
I can tell you right now that the USA, China, and Japan, in that order, have the gross amount, the biggest losses. USA number 1, then China, then Japan. But per capita, this one's number 5 gross, but per capita, meaning for everybody who's there, because China has so many fucking people.
The UK.
It's Australia.
Ah.
I didn't realize Australia was that big of a gambling place.
I wouldn't have either.
And they're also the biggest gambling losers. Right? So the U.S., China, and Japan have bigger gross losses, but Australia has the highest gambling losses per capita of any country in the world.
So even casinos there want to kill you.
Last year, Australia gambled away approximately $25 billion. That's now almost $1,000 per person, including children.
That's
every
crazy.
Year. They're losing $1,000 per person. They have less than 0.5% of the world's population, but almost 20% of the world's poker machines. They call them pokies.
Love that.
Yes.
That's cute.
Every fucking bar in Australia has a slot machine or joker poker machine.
Wow.
Pokies.
Do you play what are they called? The scratch, not the scratch offs, but
Scratchies?
the pull tabs?
Yeah, I used to love that.
I don't know how they work.
Like the jukebox, not jukebox, the, what is that called? The
Pull tabs?
Yeah, slot
Pull tabs.
machines.
slot machines. I couldn't think of the word.
Slot machines
it was
are awesome. Yeah,
the ones that I remember from the Holiday Boutique, you used to crack them, you rip it across, and it'd be Bell,
Knights of Columbus.
cherries.
My grandfather used to have them.
Cherry,
The machine.
orange.
So they work just like the slot
Yes,
machine.
and it was
Okay.
just so
Yeah.
friggin' red.
Yeah.
So you were like, oh, maybe I'll get, and then you get
Yeah.
3
They were
oranges.
pretty quality too. They were
good
like
quality.
right?
Yeah, and now it's scratchies.
Like the Cracker Jacks boxes. They used to have the best prizes, and now they're just like, here's a piece to a puzzle. Huh?
Australia, biggest losers gambling-wise. Here's a quick biggest loser thing from the UK. In February of 2021, there was a UK couple, Rachel Kennedy, she was only 19, and Liam McCrohan, who was 21. They believe that they won 182 million pounds, 182 million pounds, Euro Millions jackpot after their usual numbers came up. So apparently overseas, and I guess here too, you can have an account. Mm-hmm. You have to put money into the account.
Oh, like the app.
And then you buys your tickets for you
Yeah.
consistently. So their ticket was like something very generic, like 2, 4, 6, 8.
Oh, they
10.
probably use the same
And then,
numbers
like,
every time.
No, they only use one number. Yeah, so they only had one. So all of a sudden, that's their number on their thing. It does pop up that their numbers match to check their tickets. So they had won.
It's kind of like what you did to me once with the Kentucky Derby.
They won 182 million pounds.
Right.
They go to claim it, and the account that pays for their tickets, it was £2.50 every week. the account was overdrawn because the girl bought coffee off of it. So the account was never able to buy the tickets, and they didn't receive a fucking penny. 182 million pounds for a cup of coffee. Let's stay with England. At its peak, at around 1920 to 1922, the British Empire was the largest in history. We spoke about the British Empire. It covered roughly 13.7 million square miles, about 24% of Earth's land surface, and governing over 458 million people, over a quarter of the global population. I think that's easy to remember. So the British Empire at its peak had 24% of the land available and about 25% of the global population. That's crazy. The empire's territorial extent was so vast, it was roughly equivalent to the total surface area of the moon.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I just watched the movie Moon last night with Sam Rockwell.
Was it good? I heard it was good.
It's very good. Yeah, Sam Rockwell's the best. I love him.
So the British Empire at its peak was so much bigger than the Mongol Empire. I thought the Mongol Empire would be... So 13.7 million square miles. The Mongol Empire was 9.2. The Russian Empire back in the 1890s was 8.8. Then like the Qing Dynasty, the Spanish Empire, all those, they were so much smaller compared to the British Empire when the British Empire was at its peak.
Yeah.
I actually put a map in there, highlighted in maroon, what Britain essentially owned, right, in the 1920s. It was known as the empire on which the sun never sets. It spanned all continents, including major parts of Africa, India, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And today, the UK's territorial holdings are reduced to just 14 small overseas territories. In the 1920s, the British Empire had 26% of the world. It dictated global trade, shipping, and politics. 100 years later, they went from owning a quarter of the world to now they own 0.2%.
Damn.
Meaning that the British Empire lost over 99% of the empire that they once ruled. So if you look at the before and after photos of what they own to what they don't, listen, the Mongol Empire was also huge and doesn't basically exist anymore, but Mongolia is bigger than England, right? I think. So by percentage-wise, Britain, England, UK, whatever the fuck you want to call them, in 100 years, they lost over 99% of their empire. We all know, why did they lose it? We all know that they lost to us 250 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. USA. But the broader collapse of the British imperial power can be traced directly to the impact of World War II. The campaigns it waged in Europe, Asia, and Africa virtually bankrupted the United Kingdom, and the subsequent debt it acquired severely compromised its economic independence. The empire was overstretched, and combined with growing unrest in various colonies, this led to the swift and decisive fall of many of Britain's key assets, some diplomatically and some violently. And I think I'm going to go back to somebody I already spoke about, the biggest one being India. In 1947, India became independent following a nonviolent civil disobedience campaign spearheaded by Gandhi. Britain had lost the jewel in its crown, and this kickstarted a domino effect across the empire. Less than a year after losing India, communist guerrillas launched a violent campaign aimed at forcing Britain from Malaya. In the Middle East, Britain hurriedly abandoned Palestine in 1948. Ghana became Britain's first African colony to reach independence in 1957, and by 1967, more than 20 British territories were now independent. Little remains of British rule today across the globe, and it's mostly restricted to small island territories such as Bermuda and the Falkland Islands. So if you're going to talk about empires and who's the biggest loser as far as that goes, I think number one with the bullet, it's got to be the British Empire. Easy, right?
Easy.
Yeah. Nothing about that.
I agree.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you got to be a winner to be a loser, though. You know?
Yeah, so like that's the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
But I just think that I don't think kids today who are aware of geography, they know about this small island of England, and like, I think it's unbelievable to fathom how much of a grip they had on the globe in 1920.
Yeah. Well, just the comparisons you gave, the percentages were crazy.
Yeah.
13.7 million. The surface of the moon, England owned here in
That's
in
such
the
a crazy
Earth.
way to put that stat. The
Crazy.
surface of the moon.
Yeah. I got two more. Is that cool?
Yeah.
The Vanderbilt family. What was it? The Rockefellers. The Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts were considered the absolute culmination, the richest people in the world.
Right.
Getty came along afterwards and stuff like that. But it was the Rockefellers. What am I, Rockefeller? What are you, a Vanderbilt? I mean, they were the big ones.
Carnegie was up there, right?
Carnegie's, yeah. So the
JP
Vanderbilt
Morgan.
family effectively lost almost all of one of the largest fortunes ever created in the United States. Cornelius Commodore Vanderbilt died in 1877. Historians estimate his wealth at that time of death would equal somewhere around 180 to 185 billion in today's terms. So 185 billion.
Sheesh.
Basically, his offspring went on an epic spending spree, and it's all gone in less than a century. A lot of stuff had happened in that century for reasons like Cornelius Commodore Vanderbilt. He had built his industry on like railroads and whatnot, and obviously with the advent of the automobile, and they never pivoted.
No.
His people who came along after him, and that's the idea. Like when you have generations who are now taking care of your money, you expect them to then pivot and move from
Print
locomotives, to
print journalism to the
airplanes,
internet.
Right.
to
Yeah.
do whatever the hell you want. They never did that, and they spent like crazy. I mean, the Biltmore. You still see the Vanderbilt architecture all around,
Right.
but they spent money like crazy. They got killed in the crash in 1920. So there was a bunch of stuff that had happened. By the 1970s, none of the 120 related people to the original Commodore Vanderbilt were millionaires anymore.
Do they
And he
still
was
have
worth
the place in
185.
Newport? Like up in Rhode Island? Is that them?
No idea.
So he has
Marble House and all that
yeah,
stuff?
so
Is that them?
a lot of those places have been shut down, and a lot of those places have been sold off. So you think about like Gloria Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper's mom. Anderson Cooper didn't have an easy life either. I didn't realize his brother jumped out of his own
Yeah, I
fucking
remember
window
that.
or something like that. But like even like Gloria Vanderbilt, by the time she died, like everyone's like, oh, Anderson Cooper is going to get her money. I think Anderson Cooper.
Isn't Raylan one of them? Timothy Oliphant? Isn't he a
maybe.
Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I think so, but not by name, right?
It was his mom's family,
Yeah.
right?
In July of 2019, the New York Post claimed that Anderson Cooper received just $1.5 million from his mom,
Wow.
from his mom's estate. And like Gloria Vanderbilt was the shit.
She had those
Yeah.
green velvet jeans that
Yeah.
said Gloria Vanderbilt across
Yeah.
the pockets.
So I mean, if you're going to talk about people who piss money away,
Yeah.
like the Rockefellers have generational wealth. Generational
Like Johnson
wealth.
and Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah.
The Walmart family. They have generational wealth.
Sam
they're all,
Walton?
Yeah, like they went to an online platform. They did all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
The reason I bring up the Vanderbilts is that they didn't. And as a result, one of the richest families in the history of the world are no longer millionaires.
I bet if the Commodore himself was able to survive another 50 years at his peak, like where he
Forget
was,
about it. He would've
he
killed.
would have pivoted tenfold.
And he would have banged them all.
He would have banged them
Banged
all.
We're going to close in France, a country famous for its ability to surrender. There was a guy named Franz Reichelt. He was an Austrian-born French tailor who was fascinated with flight since childhood. After the invention of the airplane, he sought to invent a device that would allow pilots to parachute safely to the ground if they ran into trouble. His efforts were spurred on when in 1911, the Aero Club de France offered a 10,000 franc price to the first inventor for a successful parachute. All right, so you're going to win 10,000 francs to make a successful parachute. Reichelt's design was a suit that featured a cloak with a big silken hood. It weighed about 20 pounds and had the surface area of 340 square feet. I included a picture of this young man in here wearing this contraption with an absolutely beautiful mustache.
His mustache
Yeah.
could take it to
Right.
He kind of looks like the guy who
Take
plays
flight.
Superman, right? Doesn't
Oh
he
yeah,
kinda have
Henry.
that?
He
Henry
does
Cavill.
have a Henry Cavill look.
Yeah.
Jawline.
He tested his design several times on dummies thrown out of his fifth-floor apartment, but without any success. Despite his repeated failures, he petitioned the Paris police for permission to test his invention on a dummy from the Eiffel Tower. Once a permit was secured, he proceeded to drum up interest among journalists and the public to witness the test at 8 a.m., February 4th, 1912. And on that appointed day, Reichelt arrived clad in his parachute suit. He was met by a crowd of onlookers gathered outside of the Eiffel Tower, outside of a cordoned-off drop zone. Accompanied by journalists, Reichelt ascended the Eiffel Tower. 2 film crews positioned themselves, one on the ground to catch the drop, and another at the tower to film the dummy being thrown. But people were perplexed because they saw no dummy. It gradually dawned upon them that Reichelt had not brought a dummy, but planned to test his design by jumping off the Eiffel Tower in person.
Oh, no.
A guard stopped him initially, but Reichelt convinced him to let him proceed, and friends and journalists also tried to talk him out of it, but to no avail. As he climbed the stairs, he paused to give the crowd a cheery bientôt, meaning like see you later.
Good
he then
fall.
continued on to the tower's first deck. There, as the cameras rolled and people shouted at him, he climbed on a stool that was on top of a table adjacent to the guardrail, and at 8:22 a.m., he jumped. The suit was a flop, literally and figuratively. Reichelt fell about 200 feet to his death on the frozen ground below with an impact that left a 6-inch crater and crushed his spine and skull. Oof.
Wow.
And I put in the footage.
I see.
The little GIF you have there is wild.
That's the actual footage.
Dust ball.
right.
Isn't that crazy?
Look at poof.
So I'm telling you guys, I Googled this shit out of something.
Wow.
Franz Reichelt's jump from the Eiffel Tower footage. And it just shows this dude in a black...
Looks like a Klan's
KKK
hood.
thing.
Yeah.
Jumping off the Eiffel Tower. And I mean, he goes down like a fucking stone. And to make matters worse, unbeknownst to him, just 2 days earlier, an American had successfully parachuted 225 feet from the Statue of Liberty with what became the standard half-spherical backpack parachute.
You think everybody just was like, oh, and they just went home?
USA.
Yeah, fuck you, France.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, you loser. All right, so that's it for us. What were we saying, Annie?
I said, do you think everybody just was like, oh, and they just turned around and went home?
No,
like it doesn't say they gave his family anything.
Right.
Nobody
There's
rushed.
no follow-up.
Yeah, nobody rushed
Yeah, no
in
one's
on the
rushing.
footage. Like, I know it was all cordoned off, but I can't stop looking at this thing on a continuous loop.
It's like a beach with the splash behind it.
It's like a Looney Tunes, like a Wile E.
Right?
Coyote hitting the ground. Just,
So what did we learn today? We learned all about losers, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Be a winner.
well, you have to be a winner before you can be a loser.
Yeah, I
what do you
think
think
so.
the biggest loser of foods is?
What's that?
Like, I think Hydrox are the biggest loser of food. They're like a total ripoff of Oreos.
But they were original. Hydrox is the original.
Right, but that's
I
the
know,
problem.
and yeah.
They completely got shafted by the Oreo, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the Oreo, I just
Came in, they didn't stick to what they didn't,
I just had learned that the Oreo actually contains like plastic or something
Yeah.
in it, and I'm a big Oreo guy.
You really are.
good.
All right, so that's it for us this episode of Twisted History, the Twisted History of Losers. John will be back next month, and until then, we thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Twisted History.